Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a good day, and if not, I hope that this changes that. Today, I'll be talking to you about self actualization, and more specifically, the path to achieve it, so to speak, or at least get you a whole lot closer. We live in a world that's constantly trying to assign a value to you based on how much you make, or what your job is, where you're from, what you look like, what your passions are, and the fact is that people are so much more complex than they're able to display in the physical realm. So, to self actualize, we need a system, a way to capture what's going on in our heads and do something with it. If you choose to watch this video to the end, there are 3 phrases that I'd like for you to keep in mind. The first is that the truest form of intelligence is designing the life you want to live. The second is that the most important step a person can take is the next one. And the third is that you always have a choice. If you choose to internalize what I'm about to tell you, I promise you that your reality will change. So, for the context, to set the stage, we need to understand what self-actualization is and the role that it plays in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you may have seen before. It looks like this. In the 1940s, a psychologist named Abraham Maslow proposed that humans have an ordered set of needs categorized by importance. He placed it in a pyramid that's divided into 3 sections and 5 subsections. The first section of needs is basic, and it's made up of physiological needs, which are fundamental biological requirements for survival, and safety needs, which are about security and predictability in one's environment. The second section is psychological, and these are love and belonging needs, things like social connection and vulnerability, and esteem needs, things like recognition, competence, and respect. Lastly, there's self-fulfillment needs, which is where self-actualization comes in, which is the realization of one's full potential. This is a nice visualization of what needs need to be fulfilled, but it shouldn't be thought of as strictly a checklist, and it's not necessarily linear. There are basic needs that are connected to psychological needs and vice versa. It's more of a map that can assist you with fulfillment in your life, and these needs are not what motivates you in life, but desires are. Everyone has desires, whether that's something you want to create, an experience you want to have, a life you want to live, or the person you want to become. I would like for you to consider the first 2 sections to describe your needs and the subsections to describe your desires. So, to fulfill your basic needs, you must desire physiological sustenance, and you must desire safety and security. And to satisfy those desires, you need a combination of everything underneath. To fulfill your psychological needs, you desire love and belonging, and you desire self-esteem. And to satisfy those desires, you need a combination of everything underneath. This flips for the last section. Humans have a desire to feel fulfilled, but to satisfy that desire, you need self-actualization. You need creativity. You need moral development. You need a pursuit of meaning. For the first 2 sections, you have needs, and your desires are what push you to meet them. For self-actualization, the desire comes first, where you want to feel fulfilled, and the need is to become a person who can. There's a psychological concept called the theory of positive personality disintegration that was created by Kazimierz Dabrowski. I think I said that right. And he said that in the process of someone developing their personality ideal, which is their truest self, it leads to the disintegration of existing psychological structures, which starts the process of reorganization for one's priorities and values and leads to psychological growth. I suggest you look more into it because I left some things out and it's very interesting, but the part that I want to focus on is the reorganization of priorities and values. The value of having a second brain is in being able to document this organization and observe yourself over time. And so when I talk about a second brain, I'm speaking literally. I'm not talking about a productivity system or a life hack, but a place where your thoughts, your experiences, and your intentions are externalized so that you always have the necessary context to become who you want to be. And whether you're trying to figure things out or you already know where you're headed and want to get there faster, use the same tool and it works in the same way. So I've given you the context, and the next thing to understand is the action to take. This is a fresh install of Obsidian, although I've installed a theme that I've included in the description to make things a bit more visual, because otherwise it looks like this. And Obsidian is officially a note-taking app that lets you build your own personal Wikipedia, and so I recommend it because it's fast, it's free, there is a desktop program and a mobile app, it's offline, and you own all of the files that you end up creating. There are two ways to make the best use of this program. The first is as a journal, and the second is as a tool for personal knowledge management. It's a program that allows you to gain the most value out of your life, and here's the way that I've been using it to do so. The first thing we need to do is understand its use as a journal. So I'm going to close this and make a new note with my name. And here, what I want you to do is just write down everything about yourself that you can remember, starting from the moment you were born to where you are now in life on a macro scale. You can format this however you want. You can write from memory. You can structure it in years or school years, job positions. It doesn't really matter. And for some people, they may have more to say than others. For some, it will take days. For some, it will take weeks. But all that matters is starting. And there is no rush, which is something to remember throughout this entire process. It's about building the momentum towards a goal and the context to achieve it, even if the starting point is just a thought. As you start to write down more and more, you'll realize that you have a choice on how to word things when you're actively shaping your perception of the past. Negative experiences don't necessarily have to be entirely negative if you decide that they led to a personality trait that's maybe kept you safe in this world, or if you currently have something to be grateful for due to your diverged path. Or maybe you're just writing something down and you realize that you don't need to hold on to that emotion anymore. Maybe there's a passion that died, but in the process, you made friends or developed a skill set or appreciated an aspect of life that you wouldn't have necessarily been perceptive to otherwise. Maybe there's nothing you can do with certain events but make peace for your own sake. And of course, for the things that are positive, what else can I say? You should always have gratitude, and it's nice to include those as well. Another thing that you'll realize is that many day-to-day events, good or bad, will simply not be there. Will you be able to remember what happened on this specific day 5 years ago, unless it's your birthday? Probably not, but I'm sure that you can remember the cause and effect of events that led you to that position in life. You can't change your past, but you can always change your perspective, especially when that perspective is literally written down. So, you have identified your past, and the next thing to do is to set up a system to build your current identity. So to do this, we're going to create a template for something called a daily note. So I'm going to make another new file, and I'll call this daily note template. Sorry, the keyboard visualizer is not working. It kind of sucks, honestly. But we'll call this what I'll do today. And this is where you will put the desires of your mind. I'll make another section called what I did today. And this is where you'll put the desires of your body. And finally is what I thought today. Which is where you'll put the desires of your soul. Now, I will add this to the daily note template in the settings. So I'm going to the settings, which can also be accessed over here. I'm going to go to daily notes, template file location, daily note template, and there we go. Now, when I click on this little button on the side, open today's daily note, as you can see, a file is created with these 3 sections. Now, we just need to start writing things down. Treat this first section, what you'll do today, like a to-do list. If you want to look into a topic, or there's a conversation that you need to have, or any task that you just want to complete, put it in there. So for example, mine will be into meditation practices. I want to make a sandwich for my dad and I. And then I want to start an assignment. The next section, what you did today, will include everything that you actually did today. So mine will be, woke up at, I think it was like 6 a.m. Met my neighbor, Lori, went to the gym, in at, I don't know, X time, left at X time, and that's it. Next will be what you thought today. So maybe I saw a guy with a, you have a game to play shirt. It was a great thing to see. I'd been procrastinating. Then, well, as you can tell, I need to make my own keyboard visualizer. And I also need to work on a meal plan. For the thought section, I don't want you to overthink what you put in. The only consideration that's necessary is whether what you write will have value when you decide to reflect on it. If you're feeling positive about an experience and you want to remember it, or feeling grateful for something, or reinforce a good habit, then write it down. If you're feeling negative about something and want to vent, or just get it off your chest, or you want to look at it from a different perspective in the future, then write it down. If you need to remember something in general, then write it down. And this is how the journaling works and the foundation of the whole system. So that when we look back at this day, because it's called the daily note, as in a new note every day, we know the thoughts that we've had, the life that we've lived, and we know our goals. Reflection is the most important part of this process because we need to have the proper context to understand the life that we live, the person that we are. These are the sections for the daily notes, but the daily notes could have their own summarizations on a weekly note, which could lead to a monthly note, and then a yearly note, and so on and so forth, however you want to do your summarization. Next is the personal knowledge management side of this, and combining this along with journaling and a growth mindset is what will allow you to create a second brain. We all have desires. Maybe you want to wake up earlier, maybe you want to stretch more, maybe you want to be more positive, maybe you want to appreciate life more, or maybe you just want to change your outlook on life. I'll be showing you one example from each category. So for the first, need to work on a meal plan. Now let's say, hypothetically, you used to weigh only 100 pounds and you're trying to gain weight and be more active in the gym and get the proper nutrients. In that case, this would be a basic need. We desire the physiological sustenance, and to do that, we need food, we need health, we need our well-being to be intact. It's also a psychological need. We desire self-esteem, and to do that, we need self-confidence, and we need achievement. So we know that this plan is in alignment with our needs and our desires. So in that case, it would be nice to make a note. So I'm putting 2 brackets around it. I'm pressing Control-Enter, by the way, to open it. But from there, we can say we want to know the foods that we like and the dishes we like. And just like that, a note has been made. Let's say for the next example, maybe your dad used to have problems with your neighbors and projected that feeling onto you, and you lived in an all-white apartment building, which didn't make it any better, and you used to be too scared to make eye contact with your neighbors, and you subconsciously pitched your voice up when talking to them because you didn't want to seem like a threat, and you eventually realized that the only enemy is in your own head, and it would be nice to know the people that you live with and be able to greet them like anyone else. In that case, this would be a basic need where we desire safety and security. Let's spell that right. And to do that, we need stability, and we need familiarity. Yikes. With our environment. It's also a psychological need. We desire belonging, and to do that, we need relationships. And we need community. In that case, it'd be nice to make a note. So, neighbor lives on the north side of the garage, and she had a playing match with her husband like 5 years ago. Just so you know, I remember who she is, and she lived here 17 years. Now, maybe your dad used to not be the kindest when it came to school because he wanted the best for you, and it left you with a lot of academic anxiety that you're working through, and you haven't been to class in 3 days because you've been working on a YouTube video, and you really need to make sure you get a good grade on this assignment. So, for this, it would be a basic need where you desire safety and security. You need financial stability, and it's also a psychological need. So you desire belonging, you need community, and you need relationships because, I don't want to be known in my class as the guy who failed. You desire self-esteem because you need achievement. You need to succeed, and you need reputation. I'd like to be able to tell other people that I succeeded. I'm sure you understand what's going on here. But the point is, it would be nice to make a note. And so I can say directions, submission, rubric. Bam. Back to the daily note. Okay. So, this kind of shows you how the knowledge management portion works and how the needs and desires of our lives are also reflected in the type of knowledge that we want to acquire. In my personal interpretation of the theory of positive personality disintegration, this is the disintegration of existing psychological structures and the reorganization of priorities and values. So for this assignment that I want to work on, I'm changing from letting assignments pass me by and half-assing them to trying to do my best and being proud of my work. For my neighbor, I'm abandoning that sense of discomfort in my own body and choosing to be my authentic self. For the meal prep, I'm not choosing comfort over my default anymore, but I'm trying to better myself and giving myself the context to make these changes happen more efficiently is what makes the difference. Also, I want to say that for a lot of this video, I'm sure that I'm giving off the vibe of this being a self-help tool, and that's mainly because that's been my personal experience and just how it's helped me out the most. But you can also just collect knowledge and not have it be so deep. So maybe you want to look into meditation practices, so you'll make a note for that. Maybe you want to save a recipe. In that case, you would make a note for that. Maybe you want to review all the phrases that have really resonated with you. So in that case, you can make a note for that. In this case, I'll say impactful quotes I'll put, oopsies, put this right there. I'll add it here, impactful quotes, bam. And you can change the wording of it by adding that little line thing. I don't know the name in all honesty, but yeah, you have a game to play. And now it is a quote right there, saved forever. And maybe you want to build on an idea that you have. So in that case, I'll make a note here. So all of that foundation was laid just by putting down my own thoughts. And as you saw, I created all of this and I laid down all of this context at a single point in time. Now, let's say I run into Lori again, whose name I now know, and we're in the process of having a wonderful conversation when we find out that we have an unexpected shared love for cooking. After I let her know about the sandwich that I made earlier today, she reveals that she's a master sandwich chef that's been looking for an apprentice, and she was happy that I introduced myself to her earlier because we've lived together for 17 years and she hasn't known my name. I get her number, she sends me a text with a recipe, and she asks me to let her know how it goes. In that case, I could go to Lori. Maybe I want to add an interaction section, and I'll say that on the 14th of February of 2026, we met and she gave me a sandwich recipe. And now I have a new sandwich file, and I can find the previous sandwich, copy it from here, paste it into there, or I could just type it out, or just like how I created a daily note template, I could create a sandwich template or anything else just to automatically populate the document with these headers. And then under my daily note, I can say something else I want to do today is get the ingredients for the sandwich that she gave me. And so now all of this is connected. And if you go back to your settings, go to backlinks and turn this on to show backlinks at the bottom of notes, I can go to Lori and I can, toggle backlinks. I can go to Lori and I can see that I'm at my neighbor Lori at this time. I go to sandwich v2 and I can see that on this day I need the ingredients for the sandwich, and I got it from Lori. That's how the system grows over time, and although the scenario may seem a little unlikely, I want you to imagine yourself in another conversation, but replace cooking with literally any part of your reality, whether that's your job or a passion or an interest or just where you live, and Lori with literally anyone who may share something with you. And I'm sure that all of you can imagine a conversation like that. Now I hope that you understand what I mean when I say that combining the journaling and the knowledge management is how to gain the most value out of your life, which to me means being able to capitalize on the information that you've collected through your lived experiences and making the best use of the resources that you have at hand. So you can see how all of these notes are linked to one another, but you can also literally see them through the graph view, which has no real functionality, but it's just nice to see how everything is connected. And just for reference, this is what my personal graph looks like. So in here, the red dots are all of the daily notes, the orange are the weeklies, and the little green dots are the individual notes that I've had. So everything is connected and everything builds off the previous thing. This is also an example of a framework that you should be using when you're thinking, which is called Carl. Funnily enough, this is something I found in a TikTok video and through my daily note months ago because I was drafting a version of this video and thought that it would come in handy. Now, and I'll create a note for this, I'll call it Carl. Some of you may be familiar with STAR, which is a structured format for answering behavioral questions in job interviews. So, for certain jobs, to decide if they want to sponsor your life, or at least that's what it feels like, you have to tell them a situation, a task, an action, and a result, which is such a limiting and unnatural way of thinking that forces us to put our experiences in a box when the mind is anything but. CARL stands for context, which, as I'm sure you've noticed, I've been saying quite a bit this video, action, result, and learning. CARL, in my opinion, is the most effective structure to transfer information and to get a thought across. Compared to STAR, this is much more natural because it happens chronologically and it's fluid. So for example, in the previous scenario with Lori, the context is that a sandwich was made in the morning and Lori's, I had to spell that for a second, name was learned. And also you can see in the search here how it automatically adds as the words are used. The action, which is your choice, is that you talked to Lori. Also, you don't have to link it every time. I'm just showing that as an example. The result is that you made a friend and got a recipe. Next is the learning. And as for what will happen next, who knows? You know, maybe the best meal you've ever had. Maybe Lori will be in attendance at your wedding. Maybe you just learned how to use a new sandwich ingredient. Or from another point of view, and this is what I mean by it being fluid, the context could be that you made a sandwich and you wrote it down. The action, which is your choice, was that you made a note to track your sandwich development over time in case you want to change the recipe or add a new step. The result, you made a sandwich in half the time because you used your own recipe that was customized to your kitchen. And the learning. You learned how to make an efficient sandwich. Maybe you took out all the ingredients ahead of time and were well prepared. Maybe you just, had a yummy meal to make it home. Maybe you made a sandwich something. So that the next time you make a sandwich, it's even easier because you can lay down the context more efficiently. So, any action, result, and learning will go on to be context for another thought, and then another, and then another. And that's what I mean by it being fluid. You don't have to write out context, action, result, learning every time, but you should be thinking about what it means to provide context, how to do so most efficiently, which is why I recommend adding the weekly notes. You should learn hotkeys and shortcuts and how to be tech savvy, and thinking about whether or not you will choose to act on the context that you have built. If something isn't optimal in your life, and that can be physical or mental, as in a process or an emotion, there are only so many times that you can write something down and reflect on it before you realize that a plan should be made to change it. If things can't be changed or you don't know how, then say that, move on, and reflect on it later, because life moves on and you should too. You need to recognize what is and isn't under your control in your life so that you can think accordingly and thus choose your actions accordingly as well. Stay curious and ask yourself questions. Turn everything into a decision tree. if there's a goal that you have or something that you want to do, is it impossible or not? Can you make a plan or can you not? Can you act on it or can you not? If you can, then try. And if you can't, then why not? What needs need to be fulfilled? What desires are holding up your actions? You choose what to write down, so you choose your reality. Well, you choose, or your perception of it at least. Be honest with yourself and believe in yourself. If things are working for you, then, there's no need for all of that per se, but you can still use this tool to build gratitude and momentum for the next success. So, to build the context that enables this to all happen, we have the daily note divided into 3 sections, which are what you wanted to do in the day, what you did in the day, and what you thought in the day. The example that I gave with Lori happened in a single day, but imagine if you wrote down what happened the next day, and the next, and the next, and then all of that learning is summarized in a weekly note, which then summarized in a monthly note, and so on and so forth. Now you see the potential of a system like this. I mentioned earlier that you probably won't know what happened on today's date 5 years ago, but what if that wasn't the case? What if you knew exactly what you did, how you got there, where those actions led, and what you've learned? If someone was wondering if they'll be able to think of anything to put down, I hope that this helps you to understand how to take action, because there is always something to be thinking about. The past and the future are infinite, and therefore your thoughts are too. The only thing that you can control is the present and your own actions. You should think of the brain as a computer. The inputs are the actions you take and the thoughts that you think, and the outputs should be your goals, your needs, and your desires. In the present, there are only so many variables that can be inputted, so just pick one. If it doesn't lead where you want it, then refine your formula, maybe change the input, just keep trying and see what works. Life is only as limited as you make it, and this is a tool that will help you accomplish absolutely anything you put your mind towards. To address the elephant in the room, no, I don't think that I've self-actualized, and I have a lot of work to do on myself before I become the best version of myself that I can imagine right now. And to be honest, I don't even have a clear idea of what that looks like. I have many needs I need to satisfy first, and the only thing I can say for certain is that I'm trying. And the proof is in me being able to even put these thoughts together. And the result is this video in front of you, which is also a video for myself as well, to prove that this is possible by being able to put it into words and explain it. What I can say for certain is that personally, the pleasure I feel at being able to literally see a thought go from being just a thought to a plan and then an action, and subsequently laying the foundation for more development has been it's been euphoric. Oh my god, it's felt so fucking good. It's really changed the entire way I look at my life. It's really changed the entire way I look at my life. And I was definitely a pretty chipper guy before all this, but the appreciation that I'm able to feel in the present, it feels like a weight off my chest. I had a massive sense of shame and self-doubt due to my past, but I found peace in knowing that if a decision has to be made, I can follow my heart and do what feels right. I feel more genuine and more authentic, and I love it. It's helped me find the meaning of life, which to me is about effort and passion. I know I may have made it sound kind of deep, but it's really just about having fun with it and seeing where life takes you. Back in November, when I started using Obsidian more, I needed to lower my screen time because I was spending 12 hours a day on TikTok doom scrolling and feeling like shit, so I started playing more logic puzzles, and playing the logic puzzles made me realize that I could be solving puzzles that earn me money, so I got interested in programming a little bit, and then I realized that I could be providing objective value to my life by spending more time on Obsidian. And there's a note for every single step of that. Another part of my journey has been gaining weight and becoming more active and consistent in the gym. And to do that, I had to change my lifestyle. And so one of the first things that I did that inspired this change was called the opposite hand tech deck bulk method. where I decided to eat my food in the bathroom because I literally never finished my food in one sitting while sitting at my desk. And I would learn how to use a tech deck with my left hand because I like skateboarding, so I could learn a skill at the same time instead of, scrolling and eating and not doing anything. Um, as you can see, the method was vaulted, but I had an idea and I acted on it. I learned, and now I'm up, and I walk in circles and listen to gym edits when I eat, like a normal person. I got really into e commerce over the winter break because I needed money, and I had the idea to make a video series where I posted each night about how I had used Obsidian. And although that never came to fruition, it got me thinking about how to properly communicate this process, and learning about marketing got me focused on desires. So, you should always remember that there is no shame in a failed plan or missed target because at least you tried, and you just have to think of it as building momentum and context and learning for whatever comes next. If you knew that you were 10 failures away from reaching your goals, how fast would you want to fail? Life may not always be on your side, but you are, so make a plan and act on it. The point of using Obsidian as a second brain is to have your mind ahead of your body, so that deciding the next step becomes easier because you're already ahead of the present. If you try to do something and it works, great. If you try something and it doesn't work, great, because now you know, so why worry? So yeah, there's a lot of joy to be had in your own head, and making all of these connections and this journey has truly been so enjoyable. There's a lot of crazy shit going on in this world right now, but you still have a life to live, so try to make the most of it because time will pass whether you like it or not. And I think it would be nice to be able to look back on your life and know that no matter what, an effort was made. People are very quick to seek external comforts after dealing with the external world, but there's a lot of comfort to be found inside of you as well, in getting to know yourself and understanding your past, present, and future. If there's something you don't like, then change it. And if you can't, then at least try. Make the best of what you have and make peace with yourself. So that's the context, that's the action, and that is my personal result. The final step of Carl, learning, is up to you. What goals will you achieve? What thoughts will you question? Who do you want to become, and are you taking the steps to get there? Are you becoming the best version of yourself? The answer is up to you. As you've watched this video, I hope that you've learned 3 things. The first is that the truest form of intelligence is designing the life you want to live. The second is that the most important step a person can take is the next one. The third is that you always have a choice. Your subconscious only knows what you tell it and what you expose it to, so speak carefully, reflect thoughtfully, and act wisely. This whole thought process is as old as time, and I'm sure you've heard about this through various different ways, whether that's praying with intention, manifesting through visualization, or journaling for reflection. They're all the same thing, which is using a medium to understand what's in your head. The only difference is the tool. Mine is Obsidian, and this is how I've personally been using it. As you begin this next phase of your life, I'd like for you to remember to be positive, be kind, be curious, and be creative. Be vocal with both yourself and others, and your internal and external world will open itself up to you from there. All I ask is that you listen to your heart and try to follow it. There's a lot more to Obsidian that I didn't even touch on, but the basics are all there, and you'll be fine. There's a lot to learn, but your system is supposed to grow with you. When I started, I didn't have any organization or even review my thoughts. I was just dumping things in the daily note because I was tired of my thoughts bouncing around in my head. There were some days I had a single sentence, and others when it was just a couple paragraphs. Eventually, you'll find what works for you, and it'll feel natural. I purposely didn't talk about AI integration because I wanted to show you what's possible with some effort, some passion, and a little bit of thinking. Also, I made a Discord server, link in the description, and I'm hoping to build a community of like-minded, positive individuals who have an appreciation for life and want to make the most of it. I hope you enjoyed, And I'd love to know what you think about this and what you'd like to see or hear next. Share what you're using it for. And that's all for me. Until next time, whenever that is, peace.